The vast emptiness of space stretched before the USS Compassion, its sleek hull gleaming under distant starlight. Captain J. Park leaned forward, his eyes fixed on the flickering communication panel where a series of distress signals pulsed, with increasing urgency. The transmission was unlike anything the human deep space exploration team had encountered before. Fragmented sounds mixed with visual bursts of pure desperation, images of a world under attack, creatures with large, frightened eyes pleading for help. The Zora, as they would later learn, were a species on the brink of total annihilation. E.A. Kim, the ship's communication specialist, worked frantically to decode the message. Her fingers danced across holographic interfaces, translating the strange signals into something comprehensible. "Captain," she said, her voice trembling. "They're being hunted." The initial data painted a grim picture. A technologically superior species called the Krell was systematically destroying the Zora's planetary defenses. Their civilization, barely emerging from its primitive technological stage, had no means of resistance. J. Park understood the potential risks of intervention. Earth's diplomatic protocols were clear. Direct interference in alien conflicts could trigger interstellar complications. But something about the Zora's transmission spoke directly to human compassion. "Enhanced scan," he commanded. The ship's advanced sensors penetrated the chaotic communication waves, revealing more details. The Zora's planet was a beautiful world of crystal-like vegetation and complex ecological systems. Massive destruction. Zones showed where the Krell had already begun their ruthless invasion. Chai continued translating. Fragments of their language revealed names, emotions, pure terror. "Lyra," she whispered, pointing to a recurring visual of an elder with luminescent eyes, "seems to be their leader." The bridge crew watched in tense silence. Veteran space explorers, they had seen many planetary conflicts, but something about this transmission felt different. The Zora weren't just fighting, they were begging for survival. Park reviewed the tactical analysis. The Krell possessed overwhelming technological superiority. Their attack patterns suggested a systematic approach to planetary conquest: destroy infrastructure, eliminate resistance, consume resources. "We can't just watch," muttered Dong-Su, the ship's tactical officer. His hands were already preparing potential intervention scenarios. The USS Compassion carried advanced defensive and support technologies. They could potentially disrupt the Krell's invasion, but such an action would violate numerous space exploration protocols. It would mean committing humanity to a conflict with unknown consequences. J. Park closed his eyes. Years of military training and diplomatic experience battled with a fundamental human instinct: the drive to protect those who cannot protect themselves. The ship's sensors continued tracking the Zora's desperate transmissions. Each pulse revealed more about their society: a peaceful civilization focused on art, communication, and ecological balance. They had minimal weapons, no substantial defense mechanisms. "Prepare intervention protocols," Park finally said. The bridge erupted into controlled activity. Tactical teams mapped potential defensive strategies. Communication specialists continued analyzing the Zora's language and communication patterns. Outside, the ship's reinforced windows, space remained indifferent. Distant stars continued their ancient dance, unaware of the drama unfolding between three civilizations: the dying Zora, the predatory Krell, and humanity, poised to make a decision that would change everything. Haye Kim looked up from her console. "Captain, I've isolated their primary communication frequency. We can establish direct contact." Park nodded. This was more than a military decision. This was a moment that would define humanity's approach to interstellar relationships. Protect the weak, resist tyranny, stand against destruction. The USS Compassion adjusted its course, moving closer to the embattled Zora planet. Whatever came next would be unprecedented in human exploration history. The shuttle descended through thick atmospheric clouds, its advanced protective shields cutting smoothly through turbulent winds. Wu Choi sat quietly, checking his communication equipment and survival gear. Outside the shuttle's reinforced windows, the Zora's landscape emerged, a world of strange crystal-like vegetation and rocky terrain that seemed both alien and hauntingly beautiful. As they landed, the first thing Wu noticed was the silence. Not a peaceful silence, but the kind that follows massive destruction. Scattered debris from Krell attacks littered the ground. Broken structures of organic-looking materials told stories of recent violence. The Zora survivors had created underground shelters, complex tunnel systems that wound through the planet's rocky core. When Wu and his small team emerged from the shuttle, they were met with a mixture of terror and desperate hope. Lyra, the elder who had been visible in the original transmission, approached slowly. Her blue membrane skin showed signs of recent trauma, scars and patches of discoloration that spoke of narrow escapes. Her large, luminescent eyes studied the humans with a combination of fear and curiosity. "We received your call," Wu said simply, using the translation device that converted his words into the Zora's complex language of sounds and light patterns. The underground shelter was a marvel of survival engineering. Hundreds of Zora huddled. Together, their bodies pressed close for warmth and protection. Children with enormous eyes watched the humans with a mixture of wonder and fear. Adults moved carefully, protecting their young. Wu's team began their initial assessment. Medical specialists quietly examined the Zora, checking for radiation exposure, physical injuries, and nutritional deficiencies. The Zora's biology was remarkably adaptable, but the recent Krell attacks had taken a significant toll. "The Krell hunt us like animals," Lyra explained through the translation device. Her voice carried a depth of pain that transcended language. "They do not want our planet. They want to consume everything, our resources, our people, our entire civilization." The tactical team mapped the recent Krell attack patterns. It became clear that this was more than a simple invasion. The Krell operated with a calculated approach, systematically destroying infrastructure, eliminating resistance, preparing for complete planetary consumption. Wu understood the critical nature of their mission. This was more than a rescue operation. This was about preventing a complete genocide. Communication was challenging. The Zora communicated through a complex system of light emissions, sound frequencies, and subtle body movements. Human technology worked overtime to bridge the communication gap. As night fell, the true vulnerability of the Zora became apparent. Their society was built on principles of peace and collaborative survival. They had minimal defensive capabilities, no advanced weapons, nothing to resist a technologically superior attacking force. "We will protect you," Wu told Lyra, placing a hand on her shoulder, a gesture of human solidarity that seemed to transcend cultural differences. The first night of human presence on the Zora planet was tense. Monitoring systems tracked potential Krell approach vectors. The underground shelter became a hub of quiet preparation, human technology integrated with Zora survival strategies. Lyra shared stories of her people's history. They were not warriors. They were artists, communicators, ecological managers. Their entire civilization was built on understanding and preserving life. The Krell's approach was the ultimate violation of everything they believed. Wu's team began preliminary defensive preparations. Advanced sensors were placed around the shelter's perimeter. Quantum disruption shields were calibrated to protect against potential Krell attack methods. As the first human lights illuminated the underground shelter, something changed in the Zora's collective mood. Hope, fragile but persistent, began to replace pure terror. The initial engagement was more than a military intervention. It was a moment of potential transformation. For the Zora, for the humans, for the understanding of survival itself. Outside, in the darkness, the first signs of potential Krell approach began to register on human scanning systems. The real challenge was just beginning. The Zora's primary underground complex transformed into a hub of unprecedented activity. Min Kim, the lead human strategist, worked tirelessly alongside Zora technical specialists, bridging the gap between human advanced technology and the Zora's emerging capabilities. Orbital defense platforms took shape rapidly. Massive quantum shields began to envelope the planet, creating a protective network that sparkled like invisible crystal against the darkness of space. The Zora watched in amazement as complex technological systems emerged from what seemed like magic to their eyes. Lyra observed the preparations with a mixture of hope and anxiety. Her people had never been warriors. Their entire civilization was built on communication, art, and ecological balance. Now, they were learning to defend themselves. Young Zora technicians worked alongside human specialists. They learned quickly, absorbing complex technological concepts with a speed that surprised the human team. Quantum communication systems, energy disruption techniques, and advanced defensive strategies became their new language. Min Kim developed a comprehensive training program. It wasn't just about technology, it was about survival. He taught the Zora how to read attack patterns, how to create early warning systems, how to protect their most vulnerable populations. The first practical demonstration came unexpectedly. Krell scout ships appeared at the edge of the planetary system, probing the new defensive perimeter. The human Zora team watched carefully as the advanced sensors tracked their approach. "They're testing our defenses," Min explained to Lyra, pointing at the holographic display that showed the incoming ships. The Krell attack was swift and brutal, a standard approach that had worked on countless other civilizations. But this time was different. Quantum shields absorbed the initial energy weapons. Defensive platforms responded with precision targeting that surprised even the human tactical team. 3 Krell scout ships disappeared in brilliant explosions of light and energy. The remaining ships retreated, leaving behind only scattered debris. The underground shelter erupted in a mixture of terror and unexpected celebration. The Zora had never defended themselves before. This was something entirely new. Wu Choi worked on creating specialized communication networks. The Zora's natural ability to communicate through light and sound frequencies was integrated with human communication technologies. This created a multi-layered warning system that could detect potential threats from multiple perspectives. Training became intense. Young Zora learned basic defensive techniques. They weren't becoming warriors, but they were becoming survivors. Human specialists showed them how to use technology as a shield, how to protect their communities, how to resist without losing their fundamental nature. Lyra watched her people transform. They were learning to stand their ground, to resist, to hope. The fear that had defined their recent existence began to change into something more powerful. Technological workshops became classrooms. Every Zora learned something new each day. Advanced scanning techniques, energy management, communication encryption, skills that would have seemed impossible just weeks earlier became standard knowledge. The orbital defense network continued to expand. Each platform was a marvel of human Zora collaborative engineering. They weren't just defensive tools, they were symbols of a new kind of cooperation. Min Kim prepared contingency plans. He understood that the Krell would return, and they would return with greater force. Each defensive preparation was a layer of protection, each technological breakthrough a potential lifeline. As weeks passed, the Zora's underground complex became something entirely new. Part military installation, part technological research center, part hope factory. The transformation was complete. They were no longer just a civilization waiting to be destroyed. They were becoming a civilization capable of resistance. The first major test was coming. Everyone could feel it. The Krell would not accept this unexpected resistance. They would return with everything they had. But this time, the Zora would be ready. The stars outside seemed to watch silently, witnessing a moment of remarkable transformation. Captain J. Park stood on the bridge of the USS Compassion, his eyes fixed on the tactical display showing the massive Krell fleet approaching the Zora's planetary system. The moment of true confrontation had arrived. The Zora's defensive network hummed with energy. Weeks of preparation had transformed them from a vulnerable civilization to a resilient fighting force. Human technology merged seamlessly with Zora's emerging capabilities, creating a defense system unlike anything in known space. First wave of Krell ships approached aggressively. Their massive vessels looked like mechanical predators, all sharp edges and destructive potential. They expected easy conquest, a continuation of their long history of planetary consumption. They were wrong. The initial attack came from unexpected directions. Zora technicians, trained by human specialists, used quantum communication networks to create complex defensive patterns. Energy weapons that would have previously destroyed entire planetary regions were now absorbed and redirected. Min Kim's tactical strategies worked perfectly. The Krell found themselves fighting an enemy that was no longer helpless. Each attack was anticipated, each approach calculated and countered. 3 Krell battleships exploded simultaneously. Their massive hulls broke apart like fragile glass, spinning into cosmic debris. The remaining fleet hesitated, a moment of confusion that proved fatal. Wu Choi coordinated the counteroffensive from an advanced command center deep within the Zora's underground complex. His team tracked every Krell movement, predicting their strategies with mathematical precision. "We do not fight for conquest," Park announced to his multinational crew. "We fight for survival." The battle transformed into a complex dance of technology and strategy. Zora ships, previously non-existent, now moved with surprising grace. Human-designed quantum shields protected critical infrastructure. Every system worked in perfect harmony. Lyra watched from the underground command center. Her people, once on the brink of extinction, were now actively defending their world. The transformation was beyond anything she could have imagined. Young Zora technicians worked with incredible focus. Their natural communication abilities, enhanced by human technology, created a near telepathic level of coordination. They were no longer victims, they were defenders. The Krell fleet began to retreat. Their aggressive approach crumbled against a defense they couldn't understand. Tactical computers calculated their losses. Over 60% of their attacking force destroyed in less than 3 planetary rotations. Communication interceptions revealed their confusion. The Krell had never encountered a civilization that transformed so quickly, that resisted so effectively. Park watched the tactical display with professional calm. This was more than a military victory. This was a statement about survival, about the potential of collective resistance. Orbital defense platforms continued tracking the retreating Krell fleet. Each movement was documented, each strategy analyzed. The humans were preparing for potential future confrontations. The Zora's primary planetary leaders gathered in a massive underground chamber. Lyra stood at the center, surrounded by technicians and newly trained defensive specialists. The fear that had defined their civilization was gone, replaced by something more powerful. "We survived," she told her people. The words carried more weight than any previous statement in their history. Human medical teams treated injured Zora. Human engineers repaired damaged infrastructure. Human tactical specialists continued training Zora defensive teams. The collaboration was complete. As cosmic dust settled from the battle, something fundamental had changed. The Zora were no longer a civilization waiting to be destroyed. They were a civilization that had learned to defend itself. The stars outside seemed to watch silently. Another chapter in galactic history had been written, not through conquest, but through unexpected resistance. Captain Park allowed himself a small smile. Humanity had done more than rescue a civilization. They had shown what was possible when compassion met technological capability. The counteroffensive was complete. The real work of rebuilding was just beginning. Years passed. The Zora's world transformed from a place of constant fear to a beacon of technological renaissance. Where destruction had once ruled, now stood complex cities that blended organic design with advanced technological infrastructure. Lyra, now an elder statesperson, walked through the central planetary communication center. Her blue membrane skin showed signs of age, but her luminescent eyes remained as bright as ever. Young Zora technicians moved around her with respect, understanding her role in their civilization's survival. Wu Choi returned periodically, helping to maintain the strategic partnership between humans and Zora. What had begun as a rescue mission had become something far more profound, a genuine interstellar friendship. The Zora's technological growth was nothing short of miraculous. Within a decade, they had developed space exploration capabilities that would have seemed impossible during their near extinction. Human advisors continued to provide guidance, but the Zora were increasingly independent. Their planetary defense systems became a model for other developing civilizations. The story of how they survived the Krell attack spread across multiple star systems. They were no longer seen as victims, but as survivors. Min Kim, now a senior diplomatic advisor, watched the transformation with quiet pride. The tactical strategies they had developed had saved an entire civilization. More importantly, they had given the Zora something far more valuable: hope. The first Zora deep space exploration vessel launched with great ceremony. Its design combined human technological insights with unique Zora engineering principles. It carried the hopes of an entire civilization that had once been moments from total destruction. International diplomatic agreements formalized the human-Zora relationship. They were now recognized as a protected and developing civilization, with comprehensive support from human space exploration agencies. Lyra signed the Interstellar Protection Accord during a massive planetary celebration. Thousands of Zora gathered, their communication patterns creating a light show that illuminated the entire capital city. Human representatives stood beside them, witnesses to a remarkable transformation. "Humanity could have ignored our call," Lyra said during her speech. Her words translated across multiple communication systems. "Instead, you became our guardians." Wu Choi responded with simple honesty. No species should face extinction alone. The Zora's approach to technology remained unique. They didn't see advanced systems as tools of war, but as means of communication, understanding, and preservation. Their quantum communication networks became legendary among space exploration communities. Educational exchanges became common. Young Zora studied in human universities. Human scientists worked alongside Zora researchers. The cultural exchange went far beyond simple technological transfer. The Krell, once seemingly unstoppable, found themselves increasingly isolated. Their aggressive expansion strategies were now challenged by a galactic community that had learned from the human Zora. Resistance. Planetary reconstruction continued. Areas once destroyed by Krell attacks were now vibrant ecological zones. The Zora's natural ability to communicate with their environment merged perfectly with advanced human restoration technologies. Medical breakthroughs emerged from the human-Zora collaboration. Their combined research produced treatment methods that benefited multiple species across different star systems. As another year passed, the transformation became complete. The Zora were no longer a civilization on the brink of extinction. They were innovators, explorers, defenders of their own future. Lyra often reflected on those early days of terror. The memories remained, but they no longer defined her people. They had become something entirely new. In the vast darkness of space, the Zora's planetary system now shone like a beacon, a testament to survival, to unexpected friendship, to the power of resistance. The stars continued their ancient dance, silent witnesses to a remarkable story of transformation.